Hey, welcome to the Real Estate of Life with Kevin Riles. The real estate of life. I've been talking about real estate almost for the last 3 months. Today we're going to talk about life. I want to make you happy. Let's talk about happiness today. Happy feelings in the air. DJ, hit that music.
Support for this program comes from the Digital Broadcasting Network, presenting podcasts and web series from everyday people who have an extraordinary passion to make the world a better place.
Welcome to the Real Estate of Life with Kevin Riles. This is your host, Kevin Riles. I'm so glad today to be joined on with my friends on Facebook, my associates on Facebook. We're going Facebook Live. For those of you that will be listening to the audio of this later, I am on occasion will go Facebook Live. Hopefully we get some interaction, and if not, just to be live. I'm just because I like being live. And if you can't hear it in my voice, feel it in my spirit through the audio waves and to the video waves, I'm just happy today. I'm happy. I am. I was just thinking on the way over here to the worldwide studios of the Real Estate of Life located in 3rd Ward, Texas, where Mr. Producer is on the ones and twos. I'm excited. And I have friends that are close to me right now that are going through some things. And I was talking to some folks about some things at church the other day. And not everybody right now in their life is happy. And so this is called the Real Estate of Life. And so for my real estate fans, I know I get a lot of more downloads. Typically, we've looked at the numbers that when I talk about real estate topics, my downloads are actually greater on the podcast versus when I talk about motivational and life stuff. Well, guess what? Today we're gonna talk about life. I'm happy. Don't you want? I mean, that's what you want in life. You just want to be happy. You know the song "Happy Feelings in the Air." Yes, I can sing. So I'm singing even though I'm off tune. And so in the spirit of happiness, I used to want success. So I'll preface this with this. I used to want success, and part of me still does, but I used to seek success. But I realized in having been successful, and I've been blessed to be really successful in different areas of my life, my professional life, definitely I would consider my personal life. I'm goal-oriented. I'm low-key competitive, which means that I'm competitive, but I won't slit your throat. Competitive, I'm not like that, but I am competitive. But I realized that success in and of itself does not make you happy. Success in and of itself does not make you happy. And in fact, I would argue with you that success can actually make you either sad or more anxious. And so what I have found in my own personal life is that I have all of these things that I've done in my business and statistics I've made and been number one this and this and the other. And I used to seek that type of stuff for personal satisfaction and because I'm competitive and things of that nature. But the level of energy and anxiety and sometimes even honestly depression that comes with success can have the opposite effect on my mental health. And so what I've decided, I'm 45, July 5th of 2018 this year, I turned 45 years old. And so what I have decided is that for the rest of my life, I'm going to seek happiness. I'm going to seek happiness. And that is defined for me different than it may be defined for you. And so I feel like it is my job, my calling in the platform I've been given in this podcast and in these studios and in this video is to spread the evangelism of happiness. I'm not talking about religion. I'm not talking about spirituality. I'm not talking about any of that. I'm just talking about being happy and being mindful of the things that you've been blessed with. And so with that being said, I came across an article that I just kind of want to summarize, and it's called Happiness by the Numbers. And I thought these were quick bullet points that would help those of you out there that would allow for you to just think about some things and maybe implement these things in your life. I'm going to talk more about this over my podcast because, again, it's the real estate of life. And the reason we named it that is because I told Mr. Producer that, I'm known for real estate and I want to talk about real estate. And if I do say so myself, I'm good at talking about real estate. But I like talking about life. How you doing? What's going on in your head? How do we improve? How do we make the place a better place? And so God has given me the resources and the finances to be able to bless me with this platform, and I want to be able to bless those out there. So I kind of sound like I'm preaching just a little bit, like that's the intro to a sermon. I'm not going to come from a scripture, right? But I do believe that I can assist, and if one of these things can help you out there, then let me know. And as soon as I said I sound like a scripture, I just want to let y'all know what goes on in the real estate worldwide studios of the Real Estate of Life. Mr. Producer turns on a timer and faces it towards me. You can't see it on camera if you guys are looking on Facebook Live, to just let me know. Don't be like the normal preacher and go over your time. Right, so I'm at 25. It's counting down, and Mr. Producer, it actually just went dark, so I can't see it anyway. So we're gonna do what we're gonna do, because that's what we do. All right. So happiness by the numbers. Number one, or the number one thing, right, in this list is 6 or 7. That's the number, right? So I'm gonna give you the number, and then I'm gonna give you what those numbers mean. 6 or 7, and these are the hours per day of socializing that leads to the highest level of happiness. So if you socialize 6 or 7 hours a day, then that leads to the highest level of happiness. And this is based on a 2012 Gallup poll. So first time I read this, I was like, 6 to 7 hours a day of socializing. I'm the most social. I'm an extrovert. I'm a diagnosed, actually I've taken tests. I'm a diagnosed extrovert. I love people. People give me energy. But 6 to 7 hours, that's a lot. That's a lot. But I think the point of this, 6 or 7, is that no man is an island. And I do find that those times during the week where I don't have social interactions, or I have very limited social interactions, my mood is not as great. So having social interactions is important, I think, for those of us out there that, so if you've been in a funk, go somewhere. Right? One of the reasons people do go to church, again, I'm not preaching, is the fellowship. Some people get more out of the fellowship, honestly, than the sermon or the singing. It's like going to see a family members or to a family reunion every Sunday. But even in your job, going to the break room or going out to lunch with your coworkers, that has a function of how happy you are. And so with that being said, 6 to 7 hours might be a lot, but the point of that particular statistic or point is that being around people has an effect on your mood. And so if you find yourself, and this is real, if you find yourself being in a depressed state, I've been depressed. I've been depressed, and I'm going to do a whole series on counseling. And a lot of people think, oh my God, he's admitting, especially in the Black community, he's admitting that he's gone to counseling. Yes, I've gone to counseling. Yes, I go to counseling. I continue to go to counseling. You need someone, just like I just hurt my knee the other day. Mr. Producer, I was walking at night. This is a different story. I'm looking at the time. Walking at night, went to use the restroom, wake up out your sleep. And then I come out. I've walked this a million times. We've been in this house for 5 years. I hit my knee on a piece of furniture that we have that's in our bedroom. And when I say I fell, for those of you that are listening to this audio, I'm going to show you how it sounded when I fell. Like I fell. Like old man fall. Like I fell. Like boom. Messed my knee up, bruised it. Still have a bruise. Have been having ice on for all the time. So I was telling my class at Prairie View, shout out to Prairie View, that I teach at a real estate leadership class. And I was telling them that it is easier for me to talk about me falling and having a knee contusion than it is for me to tell someone that, hey, I've sought counseling for my mood and my mental health. And I think that's important out there, that we shouldn't be ashamed of that. So one of the things I'm evangelizing also, other than happiness, is that we should be able to take care of our mental health, just like, and be able to express it. Just like if I say I had the flu, it should be okay for me to say, hey, I've had anxiety problems before and I've sought help for that. And so with that being said, one of the reasons that I'm doing this happiness thing is that I think people should be able to look after their mental health just as much as they look after their physical health. All right. So numbers, the first set of numbers that are important, 6 or 7, which basically, again, is the hours per day socializing that statistics show. So the second set of numbers, or second number, is 10, right? 10 is the number of friends it takes to give your well-being a big boost. Basically, what this is saying is that having friends, and when I say I'm not talking about Facebook friends. Shout out to Facebook. Thank you for Facebook Live. I'm talking about actual, and I'm not talking about interacting with friends on Facebook. I'm talking about like old school, where you actually see somebody in the flesh, like they real, like you not reach out and touch them, right, in an appropriate way, right? So, like actually seeing people, it makes a difference. So again, 67 hours socializing, it was the number one number. The number two number is 10, which is the number of friends. And so a 2012 survey of British adults found that having regular contact with 10 or more friends had a significant impact on an individual's happiness level. That makes sense. When I think about this, I think about getting together with my high school friends. Shout out to Willow Ridge High School. I think about getting together with my college friends, Morehouse, Spelman, Clark. And I think about homecoming, like Morehouse homecoming is coming up. And if you go back for those of you on Facebook Live, if you go back and look at my Facebook page around October of last year, oh man, we just had a good time. Just like at the church, we just had a good time. At the church picnic, good time had by all. That's what they say in the announcements when after the Sunday after the picnic. Pastor, it was a good time had by all. And so you see that we just had a good time, and it was way more than 10 friends, but just reconnecting with folks that you have common experiences with. And so you find that if you can find people that you have things in common with, whether that's, same music or same book you read or common experiences as far as your history. When Willow Ridge folks get together, right? When Willow Ridge folks get together, for those that are Willow Ridge alumni that are watching this, you know how we do it, right? It's like we never left each other, right? And I often think that although I joined the caravan of my classmates in the 6th grade, a lot of my classmates were together in school from literally pre-kindergarten or daycare all the way through 12th grade, right? And so they were friends during formative years. And so when they get together, even if they haven't seen each other for 10, 15, 20 years, there's a common experience and the joy that comes from that. And so having friends and being around and seeking friendships is important. So that's the number two number is 10, the number of friends you need. Number 3 number is 5. And 5 is the number of positive interactions happy couples have for every negative one. Oh, we need to do some podcasts on marriage and relationships, but that's beyond the scope of this one. But for those of you that have significant others, I've been blessed to be married in next year on July 7th, I'm sorry. 5th is my birthday. 10th is, I don't want to get in trouble. People think you don't even know his own anniversary. July 7th is my wife's birthday, and July 10th is actually our anniversary. I would be married to Cher Denise Williams Riles. Her mom liked singers, Cher, and then Denise Williams, get it? I would have been married to her, will be married to her 20 years. And I can say I am more in love with her now than I've ever been. I'm happier with her than I've ever been. And I'm not saying this because she doesn't even listen to my podcast, which hurts my feelings, but that's okay. So for those of you out there that might be looking on Facebook Live and know her, shout me out a little bit. Say, Kevin, talking about you and how much he love you do that favor for me. But with that being said, I can tell you that our ratio is probably 1 to 10. We make each other laugh. I mean, we laugh at each other. Even when we're being serious sometime, you can't help but laugh because the other person is being serious. And so I can have personal testimony that this ratio of 1 to 5, in other words, for every one negative experience you have 5 positive with your mate is important in relationships. People that are divorced have a less than 1% 1-to-1 ratio. It's actually 0.8 to 1. In other words, they actually have more negative experiences in that ratio than they have positive experiences, which makes sense, obviously, if they're getting divorced. But that doesn't necessarily have to naturally happen. You can seek out ways to have positive interactions with your mate. One of the things that this article talks about is complimenting them or a shared memory or something to laugh at. One of the things that Cher asks me almost every night is, did you laugh today? Right? Did you laugh today? which makes me pause and think, did I laugh today? And if I didn't, then I'll, no. And then she'll say something funny or do something to try to make me laugh. One of the other things that we do, not every night, but is we ask each other what our highs and lows are. What was your high today? What was your low today? And that allows us to one talk, but also end the night on a positive note as it pertains to what our highs are. And a lot of times our highs are what made us laugh. And so, again, we don't have the perfect relationship. I'm not trying to say that by any means, but I do think that we do a relatively good job of trying to dig out the positive. So 1 to 5, if you're in a relationship, significant other, spouse, then seek out opportunities to have positive interactions and happy interactions with your spouse. Number 4, the fourth number is $75,000. $75,000. That's the amount of money you have to make it right now. I'm just joking. $75,000 is the annual salary it takes to put a smile on the average person's face. All right, the annual salary it takes to put a smile on the average person's face. And so why is that important? I had this long discussion actually the other day in class, and I told my students that money does not make you happy. Money does not make you happy. And I'm telling you guys, money does not make you happy. I've been blessed to make a little bit. I'm not a millionaire by any rate. I'm trying to get there because I still have goals. But I've been able to be in a high income profession, and when the years are good, they're good. When they're not, they're not. But I say that, but to say that in some of the years I've done the best from a monetary standpoint, that's been the years I've had the most anxiety and sometimes depression because, again, it's pressure. However, what money does do, and this is Kevin talking, not the article, money gives you resources, and resources can assist you in being happy. Does that make sense? Right? So money doesn't make you happy, but money gives you choices and resources. And those choices and resources allow for you to facilitate an environment that could make you happy. And that's essentially what this portion of the article is talking about. Making more money makes us happier up to an extent. And what research has shown is that extent is plus or minus $75,000. And so, but it also goes on to say that people who bring home less than $75,000 have typically gone through more hardships. But at the end of the day, what money can do is it gives you choices and resources. And so in your life, if you're trying to get a better job or make more money, then that's important up to a point. But don't make that the end all to be all. Speaking from someone that has had to pay Uncle Sam way more than it should be necessary, right? I don't ever talk about politics in this podcast, but I tend to lean left and Democratic. However, the only time I'm a Republican is when I'm doing my taxes. That's when it's hard. It's a hard dichotomy. This is the real estate of life. I'm just real. I'm transparent. Y'all getting to know who I really am. All right. The next number, 2 or 3. 2 or 3 is the number of times a weekly romp with your significant other, or also called sex, to send you to your happiness place, right? And so, I think that's self-explanatory, right? The more, especially for men, right? And so what the statistics show is that you are 55% more likely to report higher levels of happiness if you get busy every few days, right? If you get busy every few days. So I'm not a therapist or a sexologist. I don't know what they call them, but I know, for every guy out there, they're probably saying only every few days. What are you talking about, right? But even if you do it once a week, it says it's a 44% chance. So again, I don't think I need to go into that one because that's kind of self-explanatory. There are a whole lot of endorphins that are involved with that, the sex act. And I know I'm going on a rant because, again, Mr. Producer is looking at the time. I see how much time I have left, Mr. Producer. All right, so the next number, 2 or 3 was the number of times you should have sex a week. Next number is 1, and that is the distance in miles to keep close friends within. It's difficult, right? But the statistics show that if you live within a mile or very close, essentially, to your close friends, your level of happiness is higher. And get this, right? What's the first law, second law of thermodynamics? I think it's first law. Energy is never destroyed. It's merely transferred transferred, I should say. And so one of the things that they found in this study is that your chance is 25% more happier if your neighbor is happier, or if someone that's in direct contact with you is happier. So what that means to me is that people's energy, all right, the people that you're around, their energy. I don't know why I'm doing this. If you're watching on camera, I'm doing a circle. I don't know. I'm stirring the gumbo. I have no idea what I'm doing. But people's energy around you is hugely, hugely important. All right. And so those that are close to you, that are happier, you know, that neighbor that comes out sometimes that, hey, how you doing? And they want to talk to you, like, oh, God, you know, please leave me alone. Let me get in my house. Whatever the case may be. What statistics are showing is that neighbor is making you happier because they're in a great disposition. All right. So those around you, specifically family and friends that live within a short distance of you, if they're happier, you're happier. And that makes sense because, again, to me, happiness also is an energy, and I can transfer it. Just like I can transfer. You ever been around some negative folk? I mean, just some real negative folk, and you walk into a room and it's negative. Or you ever been around some sad folk, and something has happened, and everybody's sad, and then you get sad. And so, again, our emotions can transfer that energy. And so, one, the distance in miles to keep your friends close within you, all right? And the last number here is 40. That's the approximate percentage of your happiness that is truly up to you. 40% of your happiness is truly up to you. So what does that mean? From a mindset standpoint, that means that how I think, how I interpret what's around me is highly dependent upon my happiness. In other words, I can control, and the article says 40% is general arbitrary number. It may be more, it may be less for some other folks. But what's going on makes a huge difference on how we feel. So one of the things that I've been doing here lately is I've been trying to teach myself, you know what, I'm sorry, I just went real technical on everybody, is how to teach myself to meditate. So I downloaded an app, 2 apps actually, and I'm not getting paid for this, Headspace and Calm, at the behest actually of my counselor. I have been using the Headspace app. That's the one I've chosen. And I have a friend who she uses Calm to teach myself to meditate. And what I have found in that practice, I'm on day 10 of continuous meditation. I do it 5 or 10 minutes in the morning after I brush my teeth, and I sit down, and you try to clear your mind. And I used to think that meditation was clearing your mind, but I found out that through this exercise that it's not really clearing your mind. It's allowing your mind to be free, and that's a total different type of deal. But my point is, in doing the meditation, I found that my last 10 days I've been happier. It doesn't mean that bad things have not occurred, because they definitely have occurred, especially in business. I've lost a couple deals. I've had some deals not go the way that I want. But the way I perceive that negativity has started to change. I'm not perfect yet, but what you allow in your mind and how you interpret even negative stuff. So I'll use the example of death. How you interpret someone's death, obviously there's sorrow and loss, but I've chosen in certain situations to choose like, oh man, I'm so glad I got a chance to spend time with that loved one or with that person. I've chosen to try to look at those deals like that. And so with deals, that's how I make my living. That's how I really feed my family and take care of my family. So when a deal does not go well, then I used to have a tendency to get upset or get sad or, oh my God, what I'm going to do. And so I now chalk it up to, hey, that's a part of the business. At least I learned something. And I do like Oprah. I'm quoting Oprah from the book of Oprah. What was the lesson in this? So I've chosen in probably the last year, to start looking at life when negative things happen is, what's the lesson in this? What did I learn? So that I don't have to learn this lesson again the next time out. And so I believe in my particular case that my statistic is not 40%, but it's 60% or more, because what you allow in your mind and how you allow what's in your mind has a large degree to do with your happiness. You cannot blame other folks for your unhappiness. You cannot blame other folks for your unhappiness. All right, that is my opinion. I think it is correct. You can debate me on this. We are the controllers of our happiness. And so although we may have people around us that try to make us unhappy, that want to make us unhappy, or, as my grandmother would say, through omission or commission, try to make us unhappy. What we allow in our mind, just like what we allow in our body, who we allow in our space, and how we allow them in our space, our personal space, has a great degree of effect on our happiness. And so with that said, you can control happiness. You can control how happy you are. Now, again, I started off at the very beginning saying I used to chase success. I used to chase being, I just wanted to be the number one this. I wanted to be the president of that. I wanted to be all of this. And what that led me to was to make some of those goals. I did achieve some of those goals, but I didn't understand the feeling of achieving those goals and being miserable, right? I didn't understand, like, man, I've achieved this goal that I've always wanted, or I just put on myself this year. I want to do this amount of production, or I want to be the president of this. I want to be on this particular board, and I would be miserable. And it just didn't make sense to me. And so I got into this loop of, well, maybe that was the wrong goal. Let me put another goal out there, and then I would be miserable, right? So that's why I say that success does not bring you happiness. Success can actually sometimes bring you the opposite of happiness. And so now, what I've decided to do is, again, seek happiness. And for me, this is for Kevin, and I hope this helps someone, is my very first step in determining how to be happy was discovering what my purpose is. Why did God put me on this earth? Why am I here? Literally doing some work on answering that question. And life has given me clues, and I think probably giving you clues as to what your purpose is. And when you start seeking your purpose, it is amazing how much happiness that will bring in and of itself, regardless of the numbers that I've talked about in this particular podcast. And so my purpose is, I'm a teacher. At the end of the day, I find joy in teaching, whether that be on this podcast, whether it be at Prairie View A&M University, whether that be with my clients. People will often tell me, it's like, man, I've learned so much in this transaction with you because I like to sit there and teach you what we're doing. I'm a teacher, right? I'm a teacher, I'm a coach, I'm a counselor. Those are the things that I enjoy. I love talking. I love getting up in front of folks. I love speaking, right? And so I try to find elements of that in everything that I do. And so at church, I teach Sunday school. I teach young adult Sunday school. Sometimes I even teach a sermon. Yeah, I'm a licensed minister, by the way. Right. So I don't know why I did the shout out like that. But anyway, I teach at church. I do this podcast. I don't have any sponsors, but I will accept them. So if you want to sponsor this, please give me a call, 281-403-3700. I don't have any sponsors. I self-fund the luxurious studios that we sit within right now in Mr. Producer's time. I self-fund this. I pay for this, all right? Because I have to. When you know your purpose, it comes out of you naturally. You have no choice. It comes out of you naturally. So I'll self-fund this so that I can scratch the itch once a week to be able to deliver what I think is my calling. I teach at Prairie View A&M University. Shout out to Prairie View School of Architecture, the Community Development Master's Program, so that I can teach, right? I counsel and try to mentor students and friends because that's the coaching in me. Right. And so now that I know, and I've always kind of known that, but now that I seek my purpose, then my happiness level has just significantly increased. And even when I'm unhappy, to know that I'm coming here on the days that we tape to be able to do this in one shape or form. And sometimes Mr. Producer can attest. I come in here, I'm kind of like, hey, how you doing? I'm always, nice and cordial, but I'm not. And then the light turns on. We got lights. We got a studio. I'm telling y'all. We got lights. The camera comes on. I see the red dot. And then I turn into this. And as soon as we turn off, sometimes I'm like, okay, whew, you're right. But I got it out. I got my purpose out. Right. And so when you know your purpose, when you seek your purpose, happiness will come. And so that's not a number. I talked about these numbers. I just hope that something that I've said today, one of those numbers, that you'll take one of those things and do. Maybe this weekend, and by the way, the statistics on Friends said that people are typically happier on the weekends. Well, that makes sense. That's usually when we socialize, right? So I hope that you'll take something that I've said today that has helped me, because I've done all of these things to try to seek happiness, but first and foremost, seeking your purpose. I hope that something that I've said during this podcast will allow you to start seeking happiness and more importantly, obtaining happiness. So this is Kevin Riles with The Real Estate of Life. Thank you for listening. I will see you guys next week. Hey, thanks for listening as always. Do you have questions about any of the topics I'm talking about? If you have questions, let me know. Email me at kevin@kevinriles.com. Again, that's kevin@kevinriles.com. I'm going to do a podcast just on the questions that you guys are sending me. So feel free to send them to me. Again, that's kevin@kevinriles.com.